So there's something within the model railway hobby which has come about and has really come to its strength, if you will, in the past few years, and has been slowly but surely changing the way that model railways are built. It changes the way people think about how model railways are built and even what they can have on their model railway. It's also made building model railways more accessible to more people, which is a fantastic thing indeed. The more people that do it, the more we can all enjoy it. It's also accessible. It makes more people able to do it without relying on things from other people. People with disabilities now find themselves able to craft things which before now were unable to be crafted by them. I am, of course, talking about 3D printing. There are even companies out there that have based their entire mission statement on making 3D printed items just for model railways. And with 3D printers being so accessible now, every Tom, Dick and Harry can, if they want to, afford to have one in their very own home. That's what I did very recently. And one thing that dawned upon me was this has changed how model railways come to be. This has changed the very fabric of the hobby in that you no longer need to go out and pay 40 quid for a Scenecraft depot shed, for example. You can design your own, or you can buy one that someone else has designed and printed off already for a little bit more money, but still nowhere near what that full plaster cast thing has. So if the quality is so good with 3D printing, where does that leave the established businesses? Firms like Metcalfe, for example, who make card stock models. For decades, Metcalfe models have been on the market and they've been almost a staple for building a model railway and adding scenery and buildings and structures and things. Because they're affordable, they're accessible, they look damn good, and they offer a wide variety as well. So they fit many people's different ideas of what a model railway should be. But at the end of the day, they are still just card. And they do lack that relief, that weight, that 3D-ness, if you will. So when 3D printing came about, a few decades ago now, it was very expensive, very complicated, and, you know, not very accessible for the average Joe. I myself found it a revelation when I saw firsthand just how easy, really, it was to design a structure with a piece of 3D design software. And once you kind of get your head around that, that's it. This really is the new kit building, as it were, the new method of scratch building. Gone now are the days where you would have to sit there with your sheets of brass or plastic art and cutting things finely, and if you slip like that, that's it. Whole thing's ruined. You've got to throw it all away, start again, which of course will indeed add to the cost. And frustration as well. There's nothing worse than when you spend hours on a model only to get to one of the final hurdles to have a slight slip of the wrist and you've ruined it. So you then have to try and get creative and try and fix it with some bodging, or you have to start again, which is very disheartening. If it's 3D printed, you can just print another one. And if you're designing something which is meant to be put together as a kit, you can just reprint the one component you've damaged, and in a matter of minutes or hours, you'll have a replacement piece and you're back to where you started. Very minimal, sometimes pence worth of cost to yourself. So 3D printing really has changed how this hobby is done by thousands of people the world over. And I don't think we're ever going to go back, boys and girls. I think this is the way now. And I also think that the companies out there that have arranged and built their entire business model around making, designing and providing 3D printed items will quite possibly find it a little bit more difficult to continue being competitive when 3D printing continues to become more accessible to more people and people learn to do 3D design, because the youngsters now are learning this sort of stuff in high school. Back when me and you were in high school, we were learning how to build things out of wood and plastic and sheet metal. They don't do that very much anymore. My daughter has learned coding, for example. She was learning Python. She's in like year 7, year 8, learning Python at 12. Growing up, I thought a Python was a snake, but no, apparently it's code, so there we are. And it's just interesting, isn't it? You just sit there and you see the world changing before you and you think, how is that ever going to affect my hobby? And here we are. So it's going to be interesting to see how the companies, like for example Western Wagon Works or Rusty Rails or Butlers Yard or whoever, adapt to more people getting into 3D printing on their own and designing their own structures, buildings, walling, things like that. And it might come to a point where if everyone's already got the means of producing the models at home, but perhaps they're not the best at 3D design because it is quite challenging and it does require a lot of patience and a little bit of trial and error just to try and get yourself under the mat, as it were, of understanding how that whole thing works. There's various 3D softwares out there. You might not even have a computer capable of running the 3D software, which is another consideration to make. So maybe then the business model will go from just providing the printed models to perhaps providing the file which you use to print out the model yourself. And perhaps there'll be a way to, I know you can do this with sound files, but perhaps there'll be a way to have a one and done print, if you will. So if you want to print this file out once, it'll cost you maybe a £5. Or if you want to print it out 6 times or whatever, maybe 30 quid or something like that. Maybe that is how the business model will change when it comes to 3D printing. But I have set myself a little bit of a challenge. Now, I've built a few bits and pieces already on my layout from 3D printing, which viewers of the channel will have seen recently appearing here, there, and everywhere. I've built myself a little fuel tanker depot, I built fences, walling, all the rest of it. And it's now time to really put my embryonic 3D printing skills, and I use that term very loosely, skills, to the test. So, I am now announcing I am starting a new scale. Yes, I'm building a new layout in a brand new scale. It's not 00 gauge and it's not N gauge. So, it's no secret out there that I've been really taken with O gauge stuff recently, and Jonathan Newton from Homey Mag is a good friend of mine, and he's constantly digging away. Come on, Craig, you need to get yourself down to O gauge, mate. Crikey, blimey, almost forever. Horrible Australian accent. Of course then, it gives me great pleasure to announce that I am going to be starting a...
Welcome to Sawyer Models of Leigh, your stop for model railway items, locomotives and more. With an absolutely fantastic range of locomotives in O gauge, 00, N, TT and more, you are sure to find the perfect locomotive to fit your budget. Ordering simple, you can either order on his website, go to the shop, pick up the phone, or see him at one of the many trade shows they attend throughout the season. With one of the biggest trade stalls you will ever see at a model railway show. Thanks for your support, boys and girls.
It gives me great pleasure to announce that I am going to be starting a 009 layout. Yes, that's right. I'm starting a 009 narrow gauge layout. And yes, I know O gauge, yes, O gauge will come eventually, but 009's lovely, isn't it? It's just so cute and chunky and small, and you can get so much in such a little space. And it's still 4mm to the foot, so it's the same as 00 gauge, which I've modelled my entire modelling career, if you will. So all those bits and pieces that are out there for 00 gauge, you can use them on 009, and you've got some fantastic layouts out there. Good friend of mine, Jenny Kirk, she has got the Mynydd Tatis and Mynydd Tatis Newydd, which is essentially a roundy egg, a potato mountain with a passing loop, and it just does this, and it's won awards. So I am going to have a go at 009. So I reached out to the channel sponsor, Sawyer Models of Leigh, and they of course were gracious enough to sponsor the entire build of the 009 layout. And they provided me with this wonderful Pico starter set, which gives you a good amount of track, to be fair with you, and some points or turnouts if you prefer that, and a couple of buffer stops, some bits and pieces for you to really just sink your teeth in. And I got this because it's going to allow me to just get an over the track going and adjust kind of what I want and where I want the layout to go. I have got an idea in my head of what the layout's going to be, and I have got a track plan in my head, and I've used SCARM to get the basics down. But you know what it's like when you start building and you start running trains, you think, well, actually, maybe this point should go this way, or this turn I could go here, and I don't need it to be this long and everything else. So there will be a little bit of fine tuning, as always, with any model railway build. So it'll be interesting. But the build is going to be based on the Lionhead Studios video game, Fable. loved Fable, and it was probably one of my favourite video games, and still is one of my favourite video game series today. So much so that I remember very fondly about being part of the Fable modding scene, one of the very first people on the internet, as it were, to be part of this group of people that loved the game so much they wanted to take it apart and modify it and put their own characters into it and maybe play as a boss character or get secret weapons and all the rest of it, and then dig deeper into all the content that maybe wasn't ready in time. It's very exciting. And the one thing I like the most about the Fable series is it's England. It's set in the land of Albion, which of course is an old English word for England. It's England, and it's full of things like little hobs, little monsters and creatures, and all the myths that make the history of the United Kingdom great and fantastic. But there's no railways in it, at least not until Fable 3. Now, unfortunately, Fable 2 was okay. Fable 3 was, and every other Fable game after that has been very disappointing and so far stretched from what the original Fable was like, doesn't really excite you much. But in Fable 3, there is railways. And it's steam railways. So, the layout is going to be set somewhere, for those of you that follow the Fable series, sometime just before Oakvale gets flooded. I don't know, you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I won't spend too long on this. So, it's going to be the steam rails they've been around for a couple of years now and they're well established. But it's got to be narrow gauge, because narrow gauge has this unmissable character of being so small and cute and ornate and interesting to look at. And the challenge is going to be this. I am only allowed to put structures on the layout which I have designed and 3D printed myself. Now that excludes things like figures, track and locomotives, of course, and grass and scenery, because you can't really 3D print, well you can 3D print a tree, but it looks naff, really. So things like that will be, you know, created using the traditional method, but things like walls, buildings, fences, houses, castle embankments, wheelbarrows, market stalls, all the rest of that sort of stuff, I must design them myself and 3D print them myself. And I need to design them so that they are both about 4mm to the foot, but also match the aesthetic of Fable itself, so it looks different and it looks like it's this fantasy world, but is also still somewhat believable. And I've already started this. So here we have a house from the Fable video game. Now this is actually a model of a house from Fable. This is how cool 3D printing is. You rip the files from the game and you convert them to an STL and you print them out. That's it. Now this was a full house. It was, you know, the full thing. I just simply cut it in half, modified it a little bit and printed it out. And it looks absolutely fantastic. And it's got this oldie worldy medieval type, you know, look to it. And they paint up really well. So the buildings have kind of got to match this sort of aesthetic. I'm just halfway through putting static grass on the roof to get the thatching right. But for now, it's just been painted yellow. So this is the start of it, boys and girls. I've also printed a little demon door, which is this thing here. Demon doors in the game of Fable were almost like little bonus challenges, and you would have the doors and you would talk to them and they'll give you a riddle and you had to try and solve the riddle. So the door would open, and then when you got inside, you found like a really rare piece of armor or treasure or gold or something like that.
That was wicked, literally. Come on, dive through.
Of course, the humour in the game was so paramount. It stood out so much, very dry, very witty, very British humour, very silly in parts of it, which is just me to a T, really. So I want somewhere to have a demon door tucked away in the scene, and the eyes kind of glow blue, so I'm going to need LEDs for that. I'd like to have the door be able to open, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'll have a look. I've got some motors and things. I could maybe have it so the door opens when you, something, I don't know. We'll think about it and we'll masterclass it later on. And this little fantasy building, I literally went to a 3D website, I think it was yegi.com was the name of it, and typed in fantasy house. This was a free file. This was free. The roof comes off thus. And you print it in 2 parts, and I've sprayed it with some filler primer, and I resized it to be about 4 millimeters to the foot, so the scale is correct, but it's still got that lovely, chunky, warm, curvy, fantasy feel to it, and I think that will fit the aesthetic of the 009 build really well. As for a name for the build yet, I don't know. I'm just calling it the Albion Railway for now. Where it's going to be set in the world of Albion, again, I don't really know. Got a couple of ideas. So we're going to keep working on that. But I want to start cracking on with the 009 layout as soon as I can. I'm really, really looking forward to starting it, and I'm excited to get things down. And I'm actually really looking forward to the challenge of designing and 3D printing everything myself. So buildings, walls, all the rest of it will be all designed and 3D printed and painted and weathered by me. So it's truly going to be my model railway, not something I've just populated with other things that other people have made and designed. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. I just want the extra challenge of being able to say, this is all my work. This is all mine. And do stay tuned for an announcement, guys. I will be releasing some of the models I design through Sawyer Models of Lee. So if you're interested in that, please do stay tuned and keep an eye out for what's coming and when it's coming, because it's going to be exciting and they're going to be really affordable too. So lastly, thank you to everyone that left a super chat last week. Simon Pitcher, of course, thank you very much. You can see everyone's names on screen now. And guys, if you do want to leave a super thanks, please do feel free, but do not feel obliged to do so. I certainly don't expect it, but it's nice when people do, because it helps me keep running the channel. It means I can spend money on filament and 3D printing stuff, so it means I don't have to wait as long and the content can come out quicker. And as always, guys, please do like, share, comment and subscribe to the channel. That helps me grow and again continue this nonsense that we are doing before us. So that said, I'm going to sign off now, guys. Nice and short, simple video this week. You take care of yourselves. 3D printing is the future of the hobby. Do not believe the lies. It is the future of the hobby. It is as simple as that. It is the new scratch building, and I'm off to go mess around with my railway, edit this video and 3D print some more stuff. Take care for now, guys. Bye-bye.